Katt Williams was having the worst day of his career when he spotted a homeless teenager digging through trash outside a Chicago comedy club. With only $1 left in his pocket and his own bills unpaid, Katt made a decision that would change both their lives in ways neither could imagine. The neon sign of Chuckles Comedy Club flickered weakly in the cold Chicago night, casting an eerie red glow on the wet pavement below. Katt Williams stood in the narrow alley behind the club, his breath forming small clouds in the November air as he stared at the crumpled $20 bill in his hand, the only payment he'd received for what had to be the worst performance of his career. $20. After 15 years of grinding in comedy clubs across the country, after sold-out shows and HBO specials, after everything he'd built, Katt was down to $20 and an eviction notice burning a hole in his jacket pocket. The show inside had been a disaster from start to finish. The crowd was hostile. The sound system kept cutting out, and halfway through his set, some drunk college kid had thrown a beer bottle that barely missed his head. The club owner, a greasy man named Tony Marconi, had used the incident as an excuse to dock Katt's pay. "You didn't finish your set," Tony had said with a shrug, handing over the crumpled 20% instead of the agreed-upon $200. "Contract says full payment for full performance. I didn't finish because some fool threw a bottle at my head," Katt had protested. "Not my problem. Take it or leave it." Now Katt stood in the alley, calculating in his head. $20, minus the $19 he owed his Uber driver, meant he had exactly $1 left to his name. His apartment was gone. He'd been evicted that morning. His car had been repossessed last week. Even his phone was about to be shut off for non-payment. "How the hell did I get here?" he muttered to himself, kicking at a discarded soda can. That's when he heard the rustling. At the far end of the alley, near the dumpster behind the Chinese restaurant next door, someone was digging through the garbage. In the dim light from the street lamp, Katt could make out a small figure wearing an oversized hoodie and torn jeans. As Katt walked closer, he realized it was a kid, couldn't be more than 16 or 17 years old. The teenager was methodically searching through the trash, looking for anything edible. When he found half a sandwich wrapped in wax paper, he examined it carefully, under the streetlight before taking a small, cautious bite. "Hey," Katt called out softly, not wanting to startle the kid. The teenager spun around, his eyes wide with fear. He was African-American with intelligent eyes that looked far too old for his young face. His clothes were dirty and too big for his thin frame, and Katt could see he was shivering despite the heavy hoodie. "I ain't doing nothing wrong," the kid said quickly, backing away toward the mouth of the alley. "I was just leaving." Whoa, Katt said, holding up his hands peacefully. "I'm not trying to hassle you, young brother. Just wanted to make sure you were okay." The teenager studied Katt's face for a moment, recognition slowly dawning. "Wait, you're that comedian. Katt Williams, right? I seen you on YouTube." "That's me," Katt confirmed with a rueful smile. "Though after tonight's show I might need to find a new line of work." "Man, you funny as hell," the kid said, relaxing slightly. "That bit you did about airport security had me crying. I'm Marcus, by the way." "Nice to meet you, Marcus. What's your story, young man? You got somewhere to stay tonight?" Marcus's defensive walls went back up immediately. "I'm fine. I can take care of myself." "I'm sure you can," Katt said gently. "But that don't mean you should have to. How long you been on the streets?" Marcus was quiet for a long moment, weighing whether to trust this stranger. Finally, he spoke. 3 months. My mom passed from cancer, and I aged out of the foster system right after. Couldn't afford her apartment on my own." Katt felt his heart clench. This kid was barely older than his own son had been when Katt started in comedy. "You got any family?" "Nah. It was just me and her." Marcus's voice cracked slightly. "I've been trying to find work, but nobody wants to hire somebody with no address. It's like a catch-22, you know?" Katt looked at this intelligent, articulate young man reduced to digging through garbage for food, and something inside him shifted. Here he was, feeling sorry for himself over $20 and a bad night, while this kid was fighting for survival every single day. "You hungry?" Katt asked. "I'm always hungry," Marcus admitted with a bitter laugh. "But I'll figure it out. I always do." Katt reached into his pocket and pulled out his last $20 bill. For a moment, he hesitated. This was literally all the money he had in the world. But looking at Marcus, this bright kid who reminded him so much of himself at that age, Katt knew what he had to do. "Here," he said, holding out the money. "Take this." Marcus's eyes widened. "Man, I can't take your money. You probably need it more than me." "Trust me, I got bills just like everybody else," Katt said with a laugh that didn't quite hide the pain. "But right now, you need this more than I do." "Why?" Marcus asked, genuinely confused. "Why would you help me? You don't even know me." Katt looked at this young man, so full of potential, so deserving of a chance, and felt tears forming in his eyes. "Because somebody helped me once when I needed it. And because you remind me that there's still good in this world worth fighting for." Marcus took the money with trembling hands. "I'll pay you back somehow. I swear." "The only way you can pay me back is by not giving up," Katt said firmly. "You got too much light in you to let these streets dim it." They talked for another 20 minutes, Katt learning about Marcus's dreams of becoming a social worker to help other kids in the system. The teenager was incredibly smart, well-read, and had a maturity that came from surviving things no child should have to face. "Listen," Katt said as they prepared to part ways. "I know this might sound crazy, but I got a good feeling about you. Something tells me we're going to see each other again." "I hope so, Mr. Williams, and thank you, for real," as Marcus walked away with the $20, heading to the 24-hour diner on the corner for his first real meal in days. Katt stood alone in the alley with exactly $0 to his name. He had no idea how he was going to get home, where he was going to sleep, or how he was going to eat. But for the first time in months, he felt rich. 3 years later, Katt Williams was performing at the Chicago Theater, having worked his way back. From that lowest point through sheer determination and the kindness of friends who believed in him. The show was sold out, and Katt was killing it on stage when something in the front row caught his eye. A young man in a nice suit was laughing along with everyone else, but there was something familiar about his face. During a quiet moment between jokes, their eyes met, and Katt's heart nearly stopped. It was Marcus. After the show, Katt found Marcus waiting by the stage door with a huge smile on his face. "Mr. Williams," Marcus said, extending his hand. "I told you we'd see each other again." Katt pulled him into a bear hug instead. "Marcus, look at you, young brother. You clean up nice." "I graduated from community college last month," Marcus said proudly. "Got accepted to the University of Chicago for social work. Just like I'd told you I wanted to do." "That's incredible. How did you manage all that?" Marcus reached into his jacket and pulled out a worn, faded $20 bill. "It started with this. You gave me enough to eat that night, but more importantly, you gave me hope. You made me believe I was worth saving." Katt stared at the bill, the same 20 he'd given Marcus 3 years ago. "You kept it." "I kept it to remind me that kindness is real, even when everything else feels fake. That bill got me through some dark nights, Mr. Williams. Every time I wanted to give up, I'd look at it and remember what you told me about not letting the streets dim my light." "But how did you turn $20 into a college education?" Marcus smiled. "That 20 got me a meal and a good night's sleep in a shelter. The next day, I felt strong enough to try again. I found a job washing dishes at that same diner, convinced the manager to let me work for food and a place to sleep in the storage room. Saved every penny, got my GED, then community college with financial aid. And now I'm going to be a social worker, just like I dreamed. I want to help kids like me, kids who just need someone to believe in them." Marcus paused, his voice getting emotional. "But first, I need to pay back a debt." He held out an envelope. "There's $5,000 in here. I know you said the only way to pay you back was by not giving up, but I wanted to do more. I want to start a foundation with you to help homeless kids get back on their feet." Katt stared at the envelope, overwhelmed. "Marcus, I can't take this." "Yes, you can, and you will, because that $20 you gave me wasn't just money. It was an investment in my future. This is your return." 6 months later, the Williams Marcus Foundation held its first fundraising gala at the Chicago Theater. The event raised over $100,000 to provide emergency housing, job training, and educational support for homeless youth. Katt stood on the same stage where he'd first spotted Marcus in the audience, looking out at a room full of donors, volunteers, and young people whose lives had been transformed by second chances. 3 years ago, Katt told the audience, "I gave my last dollar to a kid named Marcus who was digging through trash behind a comedy club. I thought I was helping him, but it turns out he was saving me. He reminded me that our lowest moments don't define us. How we respond to them does." Marcus joined him on stage, now a college graduate and the foundation's executive director. Mr. Williams taught me that kindness isn't about having a lot to give, Marcus said. It's about giving whatever you have, even when you think you can't afford to. In the audience, dozens of young people who had been helped by the foundation applauded. Each of them had their own story of struggle and redemption. But they all shared one thing in common: someone had cared enough to help when it mattered most. After the gala, Katt and Marcus stood outside the theater where their paths had first crossed years ago. "You know what the craziest part is?" Katt said, looking up at the marquee that now bore his name. "What's that?" "That night when I gave you my last 20, I thought I was at rock bottom. Turns out it was just the beginning of the best chapter of my life." Marcus smiled, pulling out that same faded $20 bill he still carried everywhere. "Funny how the smallest acts of love can create the biggest changes." "Keep that bill," Katt said. "But remember, the real value was never the money. It was the choice to see someone else's humanity when everything else was falling apart." As they walked down the Chicago street together, the successful comedian and the social worker who had found each other in an alley during their darkest hours, both men knew they had discovered something more valuable than money or fame. They had learned that sometimes when you give everything you have, even when it's not much, the universe finds a way to give you everything you need.